Welcome back to Bison Overtime. I'm Malik Mitchell.
And I'm Dash Mentzel.
We're back for another episode. Dash, how you doing this afternoon?
I'm doing pretty good. I mean, hey, listen, it's Friday. The weather's finally getting warmer. We're supposed to hit 70s next week.
Right.
I'm so stoked for that. And also, got my last presentation done in one of my classes today. Boy, we are getting
so you
close to
done.
the end of the semester. Not quite yet. I have a couple more things to do in certain classes, but we're getting there. We're almost done.
Definitely.
With this
And I'm just happy that we finally get some sports back in Fargo, man. 'Cause, the weather's been bad, so baseball and softball has had to cancel some series. But now we're back. This week is looking pretty good for weather. 50s, the sun was out, so this week has been good. Now, let's end it off Friday. But to get into it, Bison baseball, it was tough. This past weekend, they faced number one Oral Roberts, and just how we thought, it was an uphill battle. They only got one win out of the 3-game series.
But the fact that they even got that one win, they're the first team to hand Oral Roberts a conference loss this year, and they almost handed them another one in Game 3. So, overall, yes, there were definitely things that could have been improved upon, but overall, this was a very good series by this NDSU baseball team.
Definitely, and it kind of previews, like we said, how it's going to be in a couple weeks. Some league tournaments only 3 weeks, 4 weeks away, so kind of gives you a little preview of how that's going to be, who's going to make it that championship spot.
And if you want to win the Summer League Conference, you're going to have to go through Oral Roberts this year.
Get into it on Friday. Oral Roberts made a statement early, beating NDSU 10-0 in 7 innings. The main key point that we made in this series that the Bison had to do to be a contender against Oral Roberts was at the plate. Oral Roberts definitely made an emphasis on that at the plate, and we'll get into that. Oral Roberts obliterated that thought of NDSU coming close to them in that first game. They scored 2 home runs in the first inning. They came back in the third, scoring a 2-run home run, and then in the 6th inning, they scored another run before assembling 5 runs in the 7th inning to win the game. NDSU couldn't even get a breather, it looks like, in that first game.
No, there was definitely no mercy given to NDSU given in that one. And, it definitely didn't help either that NDSU struggled to hit as well in that game. So it was just a combination of everything not going right.
Definitely. And this is the definition of being number one. Oral Roberts showed that, right?
Yep, showed their might.
Definitely. And, giving up 11 hits, like pitching, you got to get that under control, especially when a team that can score. 2 home runs in the first inning, that's a statement. That's not a regular play. That's not, okay, let's see what happens. Number one versus number overall 3 in the conference. That was a statement to the rest of the conference. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, and we definitely knew that Oral Roberts is going to be a tough team this year. We've seen so many games this year, especially in conference play, where Oral Roberts has scored at least 10 runs in a game. And we talked about this. To beat Oral Roberts, you're going to have to do one of two things. One, you're either going to have elite pitching that shuts down that Oral Roberts hitting, or you're just going to have to outduel them in kind of like a gunfight, so to speak, where you're going to have to score double-digit runs as well.
Yeah. The Bison played 3 different pitchers. Cade Feeney was one of that lead. He had 8 strikeouts, which is pretty good, but Carson Jacobs gave it 3 runs in less than an inning, and he's been known to do that in other games, play less than an inning and give up a great amount of runs. So they got to get that in order, and they play in this series, they played a great amount of pitchers too, but we'll get into that. On Saturday, the Bison avenged that loss, though, winning 4-2. After the 3rd inning, the game was tied 1-1 until NDSU stole the lead in the 4th, scoring 1 run. In this one, NDSU's pitching, got to go together, but you can finish the game.
Yeah, and the Bison stole the lead. The Oral Roberts actually tied the game in the 7th inning, 2-2, and then the Bison stole the lead again, scoring 2 runs in the 8th after James Dunlap and Terrell Huggins both scored RBI singles to eventually win the game. And that was just that clutch 8th inning right there by Dunlap and Huggins that really sealed the game for the Bison.
Yep. See, the Bison got their pitching in order, holding Oral Roberts to 5 hits in this game.
And only 2 runs.
Yeah, 2 runs. And pitcher Tristan Rorich was that guy. And that's the thing. Who's it going to be, him or Cade Feeney? That's what I couldn't wrap my brain around in this series. But he also had 5 strikeouts, and like you said, he only gave up 2 runs and 4 hits. Senior Drew Sackett led the Bison with 2 hits and 1 run. Then on Sunday, Oral Roberts went 8-4 to cap the series off at 13 innings.
It was a heartbreaking loss, no doubt about it. It seemed like
was.
NDSU at times had a lot of control in this game, and then unfortunately Oral Roberts just had the answers for him.
But it's good to see the Bison have that fight in them, refusing to lose
Absolutely.
easily.
Yeah, this is a kind of, I know that a lot of people say there's never such a thing as a good loss, but this was pretty darn close to it.
Yep. The Bison struck first, scoring 3 runs at the bottom of the 1st inning. James Dunlap had a 3-run home run, but then Oral Roberts struck back in the 3rd, also scoring a 3-run home run. I'll talk about this heartbreaker, like you said. You score a 3-run home run, and Oral Roberts is like, okay, we can match that.
Yep, they answered right back with the same exact thing.
Right back. And then Oral Roberts Came in the third, tying it. Things were quiet into the sixth inning. Drew Sackett hit a home run. Like I said, they weren't going down easy.
But then Oral Roberts tied it up again in the eighth inning, and then things went back and forth. It was just kind of a pitching duel. Nobody could get a run in all the way until the 13th inning, and then Oral Roberts just said, "All right, we are ending this game now." They scored 4 runs in the 13th inning, and the momentum was just taken away by Oral Roberts at that point, and Oral Roberts ended up winning 8-4.
You can't. I know they got the loss, but you can't. It's hard to argue.
You can't harp on keeping competitive with Oral Roberts like that.
I don't think you can be mad at this performance. Fought to 13 innings, went down to the wire. They paid a freshman pitcher started. Parker Pitts for 7th innings and had 7 strikeouts, along with only 4 hits, 3 runs, and 1 walk. Not that bad.
I mean, you take out that 3-run home run, we only given up 1 run in this entire game. Probably because this game probably doesn't go to extra innings then.
Yeah, this it's hard to be mad at this performance. If they would have got this game, they could have won the series 2-1. Fortunately, they couldn't get it done. Junior James Dunlap led the Bison with 2 hits, 3 RBIs, and 1 run.
Drew Sackett had 2 runs, 2 hits, and 1 RBI.
To get into this series, man, overall the Bison were in for a battle, just like we harped on last week. They gave up 12 hits in Game 1 and Game 3, and that's ultimately the decision maker of whether they're going to take the series. You can't do that against Oral Roberts. Oral Roberts is going to capitalize on that, and we saw that. You know how much home runs they scored in the series? You can't do that. So that's my take on it.
Especially, though, in Game 3, one thing that was good about that is, yes, they did give up a lot of hits, but they definitely did not allow Oral Roberts to score a lot on those opportunities. Like, the only reason they got 3 of those runs is because of a home run, and then otherwise they got that 1 run in the 8th inning.
Yeah.
And, they did a good job of making sure, to get, they allowed hits, but they didn't allow those hits to run home.
What raises my eyebrow, and it kind of just it just boils
Makes
my
your blood boil,
yes, because it's like they held in that second game, that 4-2 win that the Bison got in that second game. They held Oral Roberts to just 5 hits. In that game, if they could have did that with in the third game, the first game, all it is pitching for them. Just it's a decision maker is whether they win or not, and they could be from a 3rd-ranked team in the conference to number 1 easily.
To be fair, though, that is way easier said than done, though, against this Oral Roberts team. And like we said, they scored double-digit points, it seems like, almost against everybody. And the fact that we, technically, like I said, you take those extra innings out, we only held them to 2 and 4 runs in 2 of those games. It definitely shows that pitching actually has done a decent job in this series.
Yep, and then on Tuesday, they faced the U of M in Minneapolis and avenged that loss from 2 weeks ago because they won 10-3. Beat the Gophers.
It seems like a typical game between NDSU and Minnesota because NDSU always seems to get a lot of runs against Minnesota. It's just a matter of the fact, can they hold Minnesota to not a lot of runs? Because back in the game a few weeks ago, they gave up 12 runs in that game.
Definitely. The Bison jumped out to a 2-0 lead in the second inning before racking up 5 runs in the 4th inning. Like you said, they could score. Those runs came from 2 RBI singles and a 3-run home run from senior Peter Brookshaw.
And then after scoring another run in the 6th inning, senior Terrell Hugans blasted a 2 RBI single to end the game 10-3.
What raises my eyebrow in this game, they played 6 different pitchers, and no pitcher played more than 2 innings. Why do you think that is?
I don't know. It just seems like maybe they wanted to get a rotational set here in for a non-conference game. Technically, this doesn't really matter to your conference standings, so maybe you wanted to try to get a little bit of a rotation going, see what you got in all your pitchers. Yeah. And it seems like they did a good job overall.
I can agree with that take because, like I said, in 3 weeks, it's a Summer League tournament, so you might as well want to know all your guys and what they can do now before you get down to the wire.
And this is their last non-conference game of the season, too. Actually, no, they do have one more game against Nebraska. But regardless, I mean, they're getting close to running out of games of non-conference where they can kind of test some of these things out.
Yep. Senior Peter Brookshaw led the Bison with 2 hits, 3 RBIs, and 2 runs.
Terrell Hugans had 2 hits, 2 runs, and 2 RBIs.
So they are now 12-26 overall, 7-5 in the conference. They moved up to 3rd in the conference. NSU finally will play at home this weekend. They'll have a 3-game series against Western Illinois at the Newman Field. The first game starts today at 6:30. Western Illinois is 2-7, the bottom of the conference. So the Bison should go for the sweep.
Yeah, and the Bison, I do think, definitely will get the sweep. But another thing is, too, is that South Dakota State, who is 2nd in the conference right now, just cheapers. Woo! Half a game ahead of the Bison. They play against Oral Roberts this weekend, and there's a good chance that Oral Roberts is going to hand SDSU at least 1 loss or maybe even 2. Mm-hmm. So there's a good chance that NDSU can jump SDSU and get 2nd in the conference standings, and that will be very crucial heading into these last couple of weeks.
Definitely. Moving on to Bison softball. This past weekend, they played St. Thomas, and they got the 3-game sweep. You got your prediction. I just thought they would maybe St. Thomas would get one, just run out of their hair.
Paige Vargas and the rest of the NDSU pitchers had something to say about
Otherwise,
that.
yeah, right? They gave up no runs in the first 2 games, only giving up 2 runs in the entire series. Isn't that something?
Exactly. And, NDSU pitching, people talk about SDSU's pitching a lot with Tori Kanishi and how many runs they give up because they don't give up a lot of runs. What they tend to forget is that NDSU has very good pitchers as well. I mean, Lainey Lyle has struggled a little bit this year, but she is still a very reliable pitcher. And, you can't forget about Paige Vargas either.
Can't forget about her. For Sunday's doubleheader in the first game, they won the first game 5-0. Things were quiet until the 4th inning. Freshman Bella Dean hit a 2-run home run, and then things were quiet until the 7th inning. And then Angelique Aguilar Bocage. Got that. And Bella Dean had RBI singles to end the game. We got to get these pronunciations right, baby. And we're getting them today. Back to pitcher Paige Vargas. She only gave up 3 hits the whole game. I mean, and as a collective at the plate, they got 8 hits. So, yeah, pitching was up to par. At the plate was up to par, and they got the win.
Yep, just solid all-around good victory.
Definitely. Freshman Bella Dean led the Bison with 3 hits, 3 RBIs, and 1 run.
Angelique Aguilar Bocage had 1 hit, 2 runs, and 1 RBI.
And then in the second game, they defeated St. Thomas 9-0 in 6 innings. Junior Emily Berenga got the Bison going after hitting a 2 RBI single to go up 2-0. In the 4th inning, the Bison racked up 4 runs courtesy to an RBI triple and 2 home runs. Aguilar struck back in the 6th inning, blasting a 3 RBI double to take the win. I mean, they didn't give St. Thomas room to breathe at all. They just kept attacking.
Yep, keeping the foot on the throat kind of mentality, and they did a good job of that throughout the entire game. And once again, just pitching, just shutting them down. Yep. They didn't have a chance.
All gas, no breaks. Emily Berenga sparked the Bison with 3 hits, 4 RBIs, and 2 runs.
Chloe Woldruff had 2 hits, 2 runs, and 1 RBI, and Angelique Aguilar Bocage had 1 hit and 3 RBIs.
And then on Monday, the Bison capped off the series, winning 6-2. Aguilar kept the home runs going in this game after she connected on a 2-run home run in the 3rd inning. The Thomas replied with 2 runs of their own at the bottom of that inning. However, the Bison released the final blow after Bella Dean hit a 3-run home run to end that game. I mean, it's just all gas, no breaks, and they got the sweep.
Yep. And that's the kind of mentality you definitely want, especially considering that they only have 2 more series to go, and both of them are back at home before the conference tournament starts.
Great momentum. Bella Dean finished the game with 2 hits, 4 RBIs, and 1 run.
And once again, Angelique Aguilar Bocage has 2 hits, 2 runs, and 2 RBIs. I think we mentioned Bocage's name at least 7 or 8 times during the segment.
So usually this team makes an emphasis in pitching, right? But at the plate, as you can see, they balled out. Aguilar, Bella Dean, freshman Bella Dean, she might be freshman. Well, they had their gala already. She could have won Freshman of the Year as far as women's sports. I mean, she's doing, especially in this tournament, she did really well.
Yeah, and, she's done a great job so far this year. And also Aguilar Bocage, I believe, is a new player as well this year. I think she's a transfer. And, a lot of new players definitely helping this team. And, there was a little bit of worries last year after we lost a few certain players that was this team going to be able to get back, to where they used to be, because even last year, by softball standards, it just wasn't exactly the end result that they wanted, and now it seems like they are kind of back on track to maybe get those positive end results and maybe even win the conference this year.
Definitely. They are now 23-16 overall, 10-5 in the conference. They also moved back up to 3rd in the conference. The Bison will return home like baseball, playing a doubleheader against UND on Saturday. The first pitch is set for 12 p.m. at Theraldson Park.
Now, the ironic thing is UND actually has more experience at Theraldson Park this year than NDSU does, because they played a series against St. Thomas there just a couple of weekends ago.
Yep, UND is currently 5th in the conference. They're coming off 2 losses against SCSU. They couldn't play the full series, canceled probably due to the weather because the Dakotas suck in Helays. They went 2-1 against St. Thomas, though, 2 weeks ago. So I think the Bison can get this done 2-1.
Yeah, I mean, you say 2-1 again. I'm going to go for the sweep again. I feel like NDSU, I'm going to keep riding that momentum. I feel like they did a great job last week. They proved everybody, they proved me right by, giving them that sweep. I think they can do it again.
So going back to Bison baseball, right? Like I said, 3 more weeks. They're heading into the Summer League tournament. How do you think that's going to go? Oral Roberts is still at number 1 after the series they just had. STSU is number 2, and NDSU is number 3. How do you think that's going to play out? Do you think it's going to be one of those 3 teams, in the Summer League championship?
I mean, I'll have to see how SDSU does against Oral Roberts this weekend. But, I mean, this past weekend definitely proved that NDSU can keep up with Oral Roberts. And there was a bunch of people that I heard saying that nobody has a chance against Oral Roberts. They just look way too dominant, and nobody's even come close to beating them.
Yeah.
Well, NDSU beat them and almost actually won the series against them. And it wasn't even like NDSU was at home. It was a neutral site. And the conference tournament's going to be here in Fargo. So I feel like NDSU may actually have a better chance against Oral Roberts come Summer League tournament time.
Definitely. And then for Bison softball, SCSU, heavy hitters, pitcher is crazy. They're at the number one spot of the conference. Omaha is number 2. The Bison hasn't played Omaha yet. They play them in a week or two. How do you think that's going to play out? Do you think they can be the one to make it to the Summer League Championship for Bison softball?
Yeah, Omaha's kind of the surprise of the softball season so far, being up there in second place right now in the conference standings. But I have a good feeling that SDSU can definitely get past Omaha. It's just the question is whether or not can they get past SDSU.
Yeah.
Nobody's beaten SDSU yet in conference play. And, it's kind of the question that I had for Oral Roberts, too. It's like, can anybody really beat them? And unfortunately, NDSU couldn't beat them in the regular season. Although they did come close. They had that 1-0 pitching battle. But it's definitely going to prove that you're going to have to get past SDSU's tough pitching if you want to win this conference.
Tori Kanishi is not taking no prisoners out there.
Yep.
But we'll see what happens. Make sure you guys tune in and go support your fellow Bison baseball and softball this weekend. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to get into Bison women's golf and some NFL news. Stay tuned.
I'm your friend.
I am your coworker.
I'm your neighbor.
There's no set person that defines who needs help in North Dakota.
I play cards with your grandmother every week.
Hunger is becoming more and more widespread and more known because there are people standing up and saying, hey, this can't happen. We can't be having this in our state, in our community.
I sit next to you in math class.
It's proving that they're learning better and they're not coming to school so hungry on Monday morning. We're engaging them and we're helping them learn. I mean, people want to help their fellow citizens, and in this food bank, in this agency, that is exactly what's happening, is people really, truly care.
I'm here.
I'm here to change the faces.
I'm here to change the faces of hunger.
One kid, one mentor, plus one moment can unlock limitless potential. One heart-to-heart, one inside joke. 30,000 youth are waiting. Be there for one of them. It's time. Become a big today.
Welcome back. It is time to talk about women's golf. Women's golf competed at the Summit League Championships this past weekend at the Wilderness Ridge Golf Course in Lincoln, Nebraska. And they finished third place out of 9 teams, which is, their highest finish at the Summit League Championship since 2018. So overall, a good weekend for the women's golf team.
What a way to end it.
Yep, absolutely. So the Bison put together rounds of 293, 288, and 291 for a 3-round total of 872 to finish third. Catherine Monty finished with a career low 54-hole total of 217 to finish tied for 5th place. Elise Hoven also got a career low 54-hole total to reach 219 for 9th place. And Maddie Hicks finished tied for 9th place as well with a 54-hole total of 219. So, congratulations, ladies, on your great season. And, there was a lot of good points to the season, and also finishing in the top 3 of the conference tournament. Yeah. It's a great way to end it.
Yeah, usually the men's golf usually gets all the shine because they're usually placing high and do fairly well in the Summer League Championship. It's good to see golf. Women's golf finished top 5, top 3.
Well, same thing for Monty and Hoven, too, getting career low 54-hole totals at the conference championship. I mean, that's a good place to do it right there.
Yep. Now switching gears to the NFL. I mean, breaking news yesterday. The Baltimore Ravens and Lamar Jackson finally came to an agreement. $260 million with the contract, $185 in guarantees. I mean, did you see this coming? Because everybody pretty much thought Lamar Jackson just washed his hands with the organization, and then it just came out of nowhere on draft night. What's your initial thoughts, Dash?
I mean, we've talked so much about Lamar Jackson recently,
God.
and you knew my opinion. I thought he was not coming back to Baltimore.
Yeah.
Well, I just didn't think they were going to have enough to pay him either,
Yeah.
but it sounds like he lowered his guaranteed money, and kind of like what I said, if he lowers his money down to even like $200 million, I figured some team was still going to want to pay him. And he lowered it down to 185 guaranteed. It's still $260 million overall, which does make him the highest paid in history.
Yeah.
But the $185 million guaranteed was enough for the Ravens to say, okay, we will take you back. And now he's back with Baltimore, and they also have Odell Beckham Jr. now as well as a wide receiver.
Right, and Zay Flowers, but we'll get into that
Yep.
later. But hey, I'm happy for him. He got his money. This is what he wanted. I mean, it's good that he put his pride to the side a little bit. Like you said, he lowered his amount for guaranteed money. But hey, it's Lamar Jackson. I've been saying it's Lamar Jackson, bro. 75% winning.
I mean, this Ravens team is what kind of built him into the Lamar Jackson that he is. Like being, I'm not saying that. Okay. Let me rephrase that. It's not like this is the only reason that he's good, but it's like when he came out of Louisville in college, there were some teams that probably wouldn't have molded him or got him, as acclimated to the NFL.
They didn't even want to take a chance on him. Remember,
yep,
he was
exactly. And Baltimore took that chance because they knew how to use him well, and they have used him well for the last few years. So that's why I think Baltimore is a great place for him to be.
Well, if you really get into it, right? They select Lamar Jackson. Him being devastated that he was picked that low, right?
Last pick of the first round.
Last pick of the first round as a quarterback. And I remember when he had his interview, he's saying, they're going to get a championship out of me. And you could tell he was just in awe. Like, I was really picked last. Like, it was kind of like the attitude, teams don't know what they just missed out on. So when he does that, wins MVP, lays he gave everything to this organization. And then for them to not pay him, I mean, it was kind of like a slap in the face to him. So that's why when the pride gets in the way, okay, if you don't want to pay me, I can wash my hands with you guys. But I'm glad that they finally came to agreement and got this over with.
Do you remember the four quarterbacks taken ahead of him in that draft, too? Can you remember any of them? So the only one that I can justifiably say it was kind of, should have been picked ahead of him, or I guess, sort of should have been picked ahead of him, Josh Allen for the Bills. And then the other three quarterbacks, you had Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, and Josh Rosen.
All trash.
And, Rosen was out of the NFL pretty much in 2 years. So, I mean, that definitely shows you how the draft, the rankings and all that, it doesn't mean a thing until you get to the NFL. And speaking of the draft, we had the first round last night. And speaking of quarterbacks, 3 quarterbacks went in the first 4 overall picks.
Yeah, Bryce Young at number 1, C.J. Stroud at number 2, and Anthony Richardson at number 4. Will Levis was not selected, but we'll get into that later. But how do you feel about those picks with the quarterbacks?
I mean, Bryce Young was to be expected to go to Carolina. It sounds like they have been really harping on getting him this entire offseason, and they traded up with Chicago for a reason to get Bryce Young. C.J. Stroud for Houston. It's definitely interesting because I think Houston was also gunning for Bryce Young as well. But I think they can find a way to make C.J. Stroud work. He's a very athletic quarterback. Comes out of Ohio State. That's his only kind of notch on him. He comes out of Ohio State. Those quarterbacks usually don't progress well in the NFL, except for maybe Justin Fields. That one is to be determined. That's the best one so far. And then for Anthony Richardson, it's going to be kind of interesting because Indianapolis has never really gotten kind of the mobile quarterback. Most of their quarterbacks are kind of like the pocket passers, like your Peyton Mannings and your Andrew Lucks. Even back then when they used to have John Harbaugh or Jim Harbaugh as their quarterback back in the 90s.
He could move around a little bit back in the day.
He could, yes, but definitely not to the level that Anthony Richardson is going to be able to.
Definitely. Will Levis, I got to get your take on this. He was not selected. There was speculations that he could get selected number 1 at one point. You got to remember that. What do you think it is? Because there's been talks about a toe injury, his arrogance, and it's got to be something. Because for you to have talks of first round and high first round and to not get selected at all, it's got to be, what's your take on it? It's got to be something.
It's not like this is an unprecedented thing either. We've seen this before in the draft where guys are projected to go in the top 10 as a quarterback and they fall all the way out of the first round. We saw the most recent example was Jimmy Clausen back in 2010. He was projected to be a top 10 quarterback pick. He got picked in the second round by the Carolina Panthers. Now, meanwhile, his career didn't work out in the NFL, so there was good reason for that. But, the thing is with Will Levis, it was kind of a mixture of a couple of things, but also I feel like more teams were actually kind of gunning for Anthony Richardson as their quarterback rather than Levis. And that's why if Richardson had fallen to like the 10th pick, there would have been a lot of teams probably trading up to try to get him. Meanwhile, with Levis, I feel like, some teams weren't as keen on him. Now, not to say that he's not, a bad quarterback by any means, but
the game is changing.
yeah, maybe he just doesn't fit with what they want.
Yeah, the game is changing. You know, back in the day, like your Peyton Mannings, your Aaron Rodgers, they wanted you to be the traditional, sorry about that, pocket quarterback. And it's changing now. They want you to be mobile, but they also want you to be accurate too. So it's kind of like you got to be your top of your game. And Levis, he's not as mobile as a C.J. Stroud, as a Bryce Young. So I guess that could be one aspect of it, but I know there's got to be something because usually if someone drops, right, there's no really speculations out there, not really that rumors. With him, it's a toe injury, it's arrogance, it's all types of things that's out there. So I think it's got to be one of those. I don't know what it is specifically, but it's got to be one of those.
Yeah, it definitely does. So real quick before we run out of time, we definitely got to talk about what our teams did as well in last night's draft. First things first, the Green Bay Packers, 13th overall pick. We selected Lucas Van Ness, a defensive end out of Iowa. Now this pick kind of surprised me a little bit. Didn't exactly think we were going to go D-end. Wouldn't have been my first pick with this, but I don't hate the pick either. He's a very good defensive end, kind of like a J.J. Watt-esque guy, where he can line up as a D-tackle as well and do pass rushes from there. And we definitely need that because our pass rush was awful last year, and that was even made more amplified when Rashawn Gary got hurt. So his stats aren't too amazing out of college. He had 33 tackles and 7 sacks in college in 2021 and had 33 tackles and 6 sacks in 2022. So not exactly a lot of stats, but he's still a well-rounded player and came out of a very good Iowa defense. Now, meanwhile, for Dallas, definitely not the player that you got. You know, Buffalo came in and swooped the guy you wanted. But, you know, this is how it happens sometimes.
I just want to say this.
I think Coy's supposed to switch to your camera.
I just want to say this.
There we go. There, now we got it on camera.
I think that pick had the Cowboys, the whole Cowboy Nation, scratching their head, and I was really, really devastated because I was looking into the TV and I saw the fans cheering. I'm like, what are you cheering about? I just want to say the Buffalo Bills lowballed us. They went above us to get Kincaid. We wanted Kincaid. We needed a tight end. We don't have Dalton Schultz anymore.
The Bills knew you were going after Kincaid.
I think everybody knew that. We need another weapon for Dak Prescott. That's just what we need, right? And then we take the defensive tackle out of Michigan.
Yep. Mozzie Smith.
I don't think anybody thought we were going to take that. And then Jerry Jones, for him to sit up there at the head of the table just to be happy, slapping fives. What is going on? I feel like we are cursed when it comes to the draft. I know our interior defensive line need help.
Mm-hmm. Yes, you did.
And
Mozzie Smith is a very good run stopper.
We know that. I get all that, Dad. Don't tell me like I don't know. But
then why are you not grateful?
Because the offense. It's always the offense. At the end of the game, who does it always rely on? The offense. And we do something crazy like throw a helmet. No, Dash.
So
this is just terrible.
So you want a tight end, right?
I wanted someone in the offense. Tight end. Receiver.
There are still plenty of good tight end options in the second round. And that is why I think the Cowboys decided to wait it out.
Yeah.
Because there are still going to be a lot of good tight end options in the second round. That's the same thing, too, with Packer fans. A lot of them are saying, why didn't we get a tight end? Because I think a lot of them are still going to be there by the time we get to the second round.
There's a lot.
You got Michael Mayer. You got Darnell Washington. You got that guy out of Oregon State. You got a lot of good tight ends still on the board yet.
Well, there's a lot of people that dropped. Even Hendon Hooker. He dropped.
Hendon Hooker's still on the board?
That's how you know there's that much talent in this draft for those type of players to drop.
Yep. You also got wide receivers like Jonathan Mingo, Jalen Hyatt, Josh Downs. So a lot of good wide receivers still on the board.
Yeah.
And one quick thing I also want to talk about before we go, and we have to talk about this. You know, he's a Bison. Cody Mock. Yep. Definitely probably getting drafted tonight. Didn't get drafted in the first round. But no doubt he's going to get drafted tonight. Probably the second best lineman on the board right now. And, you know, it's just a wonder, where is he going to go and when is he going to go? Do we hope one of our teams maybe can get him? Or, you know...
I don't know. I think it's kind of devastating because I think everybody here thought he was going to get selected in the first round. That's what they made it seem like. But he's still a good player. Anybody that gets him, they're going to get a good player. Just like Cordell Volson last year. It's just a waiting game at this point. I think he's going to go high second round, though.
The only knock on his game that I've heard from a lot of NFL scouts has been saying that he has shorter arms, so it can't exactly extend out to reach for blocks. So that's probably why he's going to get moved to interior line. But that's his only knock on him. Everything else is perfect, it sounds like.
Definitely at the Reese's Bowl, at the camp, he did exceptionally well. I mean, guys that were considered Power 5 people that are considered better than FCS players, which is Cordell Wilson, he held his own. So I think whoever gets him, whoever takes him, they're going to be satisfied.
Absolutely. And, it's not just him today. Hunter Lipke, there could be a
Hunter
chance that
Lipke,
he might get taken in the third round. And then we have to keep an eye out tomorrow as well because you got guys like Noah Gindorf that could have a slight chance of being drafted late as well.
Is definitely the hidden gem of the draft. Mark my words. If anybody drafts him, I can't wait to see what he does.
There are only about 2 or 3 listed fullbacks in this entire draft. Yeah. So if somebody wants a fullback, he's right there for the taking. It's just who wants a fullback and when are they willing to make that pick?
That's true. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Bison Overtime. I'm Malik Mitchell.
And I'm Mentzel.
We'll catch you guys next week. Go Bison.